After the question, humanity didn't answer. Not at first, because for the first time there was no clear enemy. No invasion to fight, no weapon to aim. Only uncertainty. At first, the test continued quietly. Subtle changes, small anomalies, but then something new began. People started to feel things that didn't belong to them. Pain without injury, fear without cause. A woman in Tokyo collapsed, feeling the burning lungs of a man drowning thousands of miles away. A child in Brazil cried because somewhere someone else had lost everything. At first, doctors called it mass hysteria. They were wrong. The tests were no longer individual. They were connected. Anna was the first to understand. Her hearing had already changed, expanded beyond anything human. But now, she wasn't just hearing sounds. She was hearing people, not voices, feelings. She heard grief before it happened, heard joy before it was expressed, heard decisions before they were made. Lucas felt it too, but differently. Where Anna gained, Lucas had lost strength, memory, control. Yet somehow he could feel others holding on. Their persistence became his. Their will, his only anchor. And that's when humanity realized the truth. The aliens weren't just studying individuals anymore. They were linking them. One person's suffering was no longer isolated. One person's choice was no longer their own. A soldier raised his weapon and suddenly felt the fear of that person in front of him. A thief reached for something that wasn't his and felt the loss it would cause. A leader made a decision and felt the weight of millions that it would affect. For the first time in history, humanity could feel itself, and it was overwhelming. Some people couldn't handle it. Cities fell into chaos, not from violence, but from emotion. Too much, too fast, too real. Others adapted. Communities began to change. People moved differently, spoke differently, acted carefully. Because every action echoed, every choice rippled. And slowly something unexpected began to happen. Compassion increased, not as an idea, but as a necessity. Because hurting someone meant hurting yourself. Ignoring someone meant feeling their suffering anyway. For the first time, selfishness had the cost that couldn't be ignored. But not everyone accepted it. There were those who resisted, who tried to break the connection, to isolate themselves, to regain control. And when they did, the test changed again. The connection didn't disappear, it intensified. Those who rejected others felt everything, alone, amplified, unfiltered. Because the test wasn't just measuring behavior, it was measuring intent. Do you care when you have no choice? Or only when it benefits you? And then the next phase began. The ships moved. For the first time since their arrival, they descended, not all the way, but closer. Low enough that the structures could be seen clearly. Impossible geometry. Surfaces that seemed to shift, like they weren't fully part of this reality. And beneath them, new structures reappeared. Not built, not deployed, grown. Massive constructs rising from the ground, in perfect synchronization with the ships above. No one knew what they were until the first person touched one, and subsequently disappeared. Not gone, not dead, connected. Moments later, every person on Earth felt it. A presence. Different, stronger. A human mind, but expanded. The man who vanished was now everywhere. Not physically, but mentally. He spoke, and billions heard him. Not through sound, but through thought. I can see you. I can feel all of you. I understand now. And then the silence, because what he felt next was everything humanity had ever been. Every war, every kindness, every lie, every sacrifice, all at once. And then he made a choice. I won't judge you. The connection stabilized, and for the first time, the ships reacted. A light, subtle, but undeniable, as if something had been acknowledged. Because the test was never about perfection, it was about understanding. Could a species become aware of itself and choose to be better? Not forced, not controlled, but chosen. And now, the final phase had begun. Not survival, not intelligence, unity. Because the last question was no longer asked by them. It was asked by all of humanity to itself. If you can feel everyone, if you can understand everything, who did you choose to be? And in the silence that followed, the ships finally began to change, not as observers, but as something else, something waiting for humanity's answer. And then everything stopped. The noise, the chaos, the fear, gone. For one single moment, every human mind on earth was quiet. No pain, no separation, no confusion, just awareness. Not of others, but of self. And in that silence, humanity saw itself clearly. Every mistake, every act of cruelty, every moment of selfishness, but also every sacrifice, every act of love, every time someone chose someone else. All of it, together, balanced. And for the first time, humanity understood. It was never about becoming perfect. It was about choosing despite imperfection. And then one thought spread across the world, not spoken, not forced, chosen. We can do better. And the moment that thought became shared, the connection stabilized. The ships responded. For the first time, they moved away, slowly, silently, not as observers, not as judges, but as something else, witnesses to a decision, and they had disappeared into the sky. One final message remained, though, not in words, but in understanding. This test was never about survival. It was about this. When given the ability to feel everything, would you still choose to care? And now, for the first time in history, humanity had answered, yes.